first, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would the clerk please read the notice of the seeker public scoping session? Jean, are you there? There you go. I see you. You have to unmute.
Okay, sorry. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. County of Orange Legislature. Notice of seeker public scoping session. Orange County Sewer District Number 1, Harriman Wastewater Treatment Plant Capacity Expansion. Located at 72 River Road South, Harriman, New York. September 3rd, 2020 at 2:00 p.m. Please take notice that the County of Orange, as lead agency, will be holding a public scoping session to provide an opportunity for public input on the draft scoping document for the Orange County Sewer District Number 1 Harriman Wastewater Treatment Plant Capacity Expansion on Thursday, September 3rd, 2020 at 2:00 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be heard at the Orange County Government Center, Legislative Chambers, 3rd floor, 255 Main Street, Goshen, New York, 10924, and or via video conferencing. This document and a complete copy of the scoping documents is available on the Orange County website at www.orangecounty.gov.com/437/orange-county-sewer-district-number-1. The legislature is proposing the following action at the Harriman Wastewater Treatment Plant. Improvements to extend the longevity of the existing systems and expand capacity to 9.0 MGD. Improvements include new mechanical screening, vortex grit unit, and flow splitter with odor control housed in a new building constructed adjacent to the existing Headworks building. A new chemical feed and backwash filter pump buildings will be constructed. Trains 1 and 2 will be converted to sequencing batch reactors, SBR, capable of treating a 7.0 MGD, while Train 3 will be subject to aeration basin upgrades to remain at 2.0 MGD for a total of 9.0 MGD. Existing train half territory treatment will be upgraded as needed to meet regulatory requirements. Existing structures will be demolished or repurposed as necessary to provide facilities necessary to meet regulatory requirements. Modifications to the sludge holding tanks will be conducted to add blowers, aeration piping, coarse bubble diffusers, tank covers, sludge pumps, and odor control. Chlorine contact, post-aeration, SCADA, and appurtenant upgrades will be conducted. In addition, the project may include upgrades to the main building supply of air, odor control, and HVAC improvements. Remote pump station replacement, decommissioning of several collection system pump stations, magnesium hydroxide chemical feed mixing system, Train 1 air supply line rehabilitation, miscellaneous concrete work, MCC1 switchgear and Train 1 secondary weir replacement, and Train 1 and 3 secondary covers. County legislature will hold a public scoping session at the legislative chambers unless the governor's executive order 202.1 allowing public meetings to be held remotely by conference call or similar service is extended, in which case the legislature may hold a public scoping session via video conferencing in order to ensure compliance with all applicable social distancing and public assemble limitations. To the extent the public scoping session is held at the legislative chambers, all persons attending will be required to wear a mask and to have their temperature taken for admission. To the extent the public scoping session will be held via video conference, instructions to access the virtual meeting made available on the Orange County Legislature's website, www.orangecountygov.com, prior to September 3rd, 2020. The public should have an opportunity to see and hear the meeting live and provide comments, and a recording of the meeting will be subsequently be made available on the town's website. Written comments on the draft scoping document may also be submitted on or before September 14, 2020 to Eric Denanga, Commissioner, Environmental Facilities and Services, to 2455 2459 Route 17M, Goshen, New York, 10924, or email denanga@orangecounty.gov.com. This notice was published in the August 19th and 26th issues of the Hudson Valley Press, Times Community Newspapers, Wallkill Valley and Mid-Hudson Times, and the Wallkill Valley Dispatch, the August 21st and 28th issues of the Orange County Post, Strauss Newspapers, Warwick Advertiser, Monroe Photo News, The Chronicle, and the News of the Highlands Como Local, and the Gazette.
Yeah, you're on mute, Peter.
Thank you, Gene. Appreciate that. The purpose of this session is to define the scope of the environmental review. If the environmental review documents were a book, the scope would be the table of contents. For today, we take public comments on what should be studied. Later on, the legislature will adapt the final scope for what will be studied as part of the environmental review. So we will listen to your comments today. When the final scope is adopted, we will note any changes based on those comments. I now call upon the Department of Public Works and EF&S Deputy Commissioner Robert Gray and Mary Beth Bianconi, Senior Project Manager at DWyer Engineering, to provide an overview of the draft scoping document for the Orange County Sewer District Number 1 Harriman Wastewater Treatment Plant capacity expansion.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Bob.
Great. I'm Robert Gray. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of Environmental Facilities and Services, Division of Department of Public Works. I don't want to add, just have a little bit to add to what Peter said. Questions will be answered in writing and the scope modified. That document will be available on our EF&S website, which is found in the EF&S website, found under the Orange County Sewer District. Orange County Sewer District Number 1, to be specific. And again, comments should be emailed to Eric Denega at his email, edenega, DENEGA, at orangecounty.gov.com. The only other thing I want to add is that people may be asking questions at this scoping meeting. That is not the purpose of this meeting. This is not a Q&A session, but is rather it's an opportunity for interested and involved agencies as well as the public to describe the information they believe should be included in the draft EIS or environmental impact statement. To identify existing conditions, potential environmental impacts, and mitigation measures intended to reduce or eliminate environmental impacts. Again, each comment will be recognized in writing to the extent that the comment is already addressed in the draft scope. A specific reference is provided, and to the extent that the comment provides a request to add information to the EIS that would be useful in determining relative existing conditions, potential impacts, and mitigation measures. Now I'm going to turn this over to Mary Beth Bianconi, who is the consultant, who represents DWyer Engineering. She'll go through a quick summary of the scoping document itself, what's included in the draft, and also an overview of the entire seeker process so we can see where this scoping meeting fits into that process. Thank you. Go ahead, Mary Beth.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for including me in this meeting. The Orange County Legislature initiated lead agency for this project back on May 7th, 2020, and on August 6th, having received no objection to its declaration of lead agency, assumed lead agency role. On August 6th, the legislature also adopted parts 1, 2, and 3 of the long form environmental assessment and began circulation of a scoping document, which is the topic that we have before us today. This project is generated by the need for the county to address both the aging infrastructure at the Harriman Wastewater Treatment Plant, as well as a need to expand the plant to accommodate additional wastewater flows being generated by the service area. In evaluating the potential impacts, a number of small to moderate impacts were evaluated, but large to significant impacts were brought about in terms of the multi-year construction of the project, potential impacts to water quality, expansion of the wastewater treatment plant, and the potential for odors. The scoping document includes, as the chairman said, as the chairman of our committee, Legislator Toohey said, there's a number of different sections of the scoping document. It's the table of contents for the EIS. I'll go through them really quickly just so folks know. There's a section that describes the purpose, need, and benefit of the project, a description of its location, and the current concept plan for the capital improvements. There'll also be a discussion of the operational conditions, construction, and permits and approvals that are required for the project. In addition, the current scoping document requires that the environmental impact statement discuss existing conditions, including topography, geology and soils, groundwater resources, surface water resources, neighborhood and community, energy consumption, residuals management, which is the byproduct of the wastewater treatment process, and then also identifies impacts and mitigation measures for each of those areas. In addition, there's a description in the scoping document requiring an evaluation of the project's scope relative to climate change, a discussion of unavoidable environmental impacts, and alternatives to the action that is preferred. The alternatives outlined in the scoping document include the no action alternative for just simply conducting longevity improvements to the plant to extend its useful life, alternative technologies to increase the wastewater treatment capacity to 9 MGD, and then there's also a description of regional alternatives other than expanding the Harriman plant or in addition to expanding the Harriman plant. Scoping is really the beginning of the environmental review process after a lead agency has been determined. This project in and of itself is going to be subject to the preparation of an environmental impact statement. Once the scoping document is adopted, it will be the document that will be used in preparation of that EIS or environmental impact statement to ensure that all of the relevant areas of study are included. After the EIS is prepared, it will come before the legislature for review in comparison back to the scoping document to ensure that it's complete. It will be deemed complete at some point by the legislature and then circulated for comment to involved agencies, interested agencies, and the public. We anticipate that there will be a public hearing and there'll be an extended period of time for folks to make written comments. The documents will be available on the county's website and will be created in such a way so that they're easily accessible to everyone. These documents can be very highly technical in nature, so the EIS will be written in common language that everyone can understand, and the technical documentation will be provided as appendices. After the EIS is subject to public review and comment, and that's a draft EIS. A final EIS is prepared, and that includes the draft EIS plus all of the comments and response to all of the comments that are received with a detailed response. After that process is concluded, that final EIS again comes before the legislature for adoption and circulation. At the conclusion of that circulation process to agencies involved and interested in the public, then a finding statement is adopted by the legislature, and that is the process, part of the process that concludes the environmental review. The finding statement will outline the process that we've undertaken. It will describe in general terms the existing conditions, impacts, and mitigation measures that have been identified in the EIS, and essentially provides the framework for which the project may go forward and receive permits and approvals to advance. This is obviously not is obviously a large undertaking. It will not happen quickly. So there will be more than adequate time for public review. And today, as Mr. Gray stated, we're really looking for folks to ask the questions that should be asked and answered in the EIS. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Bianconi. Members of the public with which to speak were notified of the telephone number to call in to comment. They have called in, and the deputy clerk has informed them of the 3-minute limit. Deputy clerk has also taken a name and assigned them a number, which is the order they will be called in. Deputy clerk, how many speakers do we have?
Peter, so far we have 5 speakers, but since the start of the session, we've had 2 individuals call in, one with the 518 number and one with the 782 number. Were the 518 number, were you interested in speaking? Okay, how about the 782 number who just recently joined us?
No.
Okay, all right, so Peter, it looks like we have 5 speakers, and the first speaker is John Carl of Monroe.
Go ahead, Mr. Carl.
Yes, good afternoon. Basically what I heard about the question and answer. I will not present my my info as a question, but comments that not only about the expansion of the county sewer district, but there's issues that lead up to the county sewer district, and I just want to make note of that as I go along. First and foremost, the odor issue in the Village of Monroe along the Mill Pond Parkways that are emitting hydrogen sulfide gases at the drop manhole and vents that are along the Heritage Trail. It's a rather obnoxious smell, and that needs to be addressed. Secondly, with the expansion to 9 million gallons per day, I would like to know, I won't put it in a question, but I think we need to know how the capacity from 6 million to 9 million, it's a 3 million gallon capacity that will be made available. How will that be made available to all the municipalities that make up the Orange County Sewer District, as well as the outside users? My next thing is debt service costs. How will they be calculated to outside users? Example is Moodna, the Blooming Grove, and the haulers that dump at the plant, as well as any outside connections that are outside the sewer district. How will they be made to pay towards the debt service? Areas in the current Orange County Sewer District that don't have access to sewer lines, but yet they have septic, and yet they're paying towards debt service in the sewer district. And I'm not quite sure if they're paying the biannual bills for the O&M. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carl.
Thank you.
Kelly? we have
Okay,
another
our next speaker is Susan Shapiro. She's with the Rockland Water Coalition.
Hi, thank you for
Go ahead,
letting me
Ms.
speak.
Shapiro.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I'm also a farmer in Goshen. I've been there for over a decade farming the land in Goshen, and so I'm a Orange County resident and business owner. And I'm concerned about the what I understand is that there's going to be a request, or this is part of a process to request from the DEC an exemption from water quality standards due to increased salt and chlorides in the effluent that's coming into the plant that the current plant can't handle. And I think that what's necessary in the scoping is that first there has to be an understanding where these pollutants, these additional pollutants are coming from. Where are the chlorides coming from? Where's the salt coming from? If the salt is coming from the streets, then I would like to see a study as to the cost of replacing salt with calcium, which is used everywhere pretty much, and it's better for the roads, and there's a cost saving all around. If the increased salt is coming from chicken processing plants or other manufacturing plants, then I believe that the cost of remediation should be given to the ones who are the polluters and not transferred to the public. And I think those costs need to be examined and understood clearly as to why there's a need to ask for this exemption and change in water quality standards. The change in water quality standards in Orange County impacts not only Orange County and the cost to us in Orange County, but also is transferred to other regions, which is inequitable. To transfer Orange County's increased pollutants into the Ramapo River to Rockland in New Jersey, which is the drinking water supply, the cost should be kept within Orange County of this additional effluent problem. I believe that should be studied in detail, and those numbers should be known before any decisions are made. I think it's very important that if there is going to be an increase in water and sewage capacity, that there's got to be an equitable way that is distributed amongst the towns in Orange County, and that it's not all given to one area or one town. It will create vast inequality within Orange County. It will affect overdevelopment in one area, which will impact voting rights, school districts, and a whole range of other issues that need to be looked at. If the purpose of this is for one area and not for the entire county. And if that's the case, if it is found to be for only one area, then that area needs to pay for it and should not be transferred to other areas of the county to pay for this increase. And most importantly, I'm very concerned about additional effluent into the Ramapo River. My understanding is that the Ramapo River is maxed out. It cannot accept any more effluent that is not cleaned to the standard that it needs to. It's already compromised, and therefore I would ask that Orange County be a good neighbor and a good steward of the environment and make sure that the Ramapo River is not damaged any further. And this study should show that. And so I ask for a very detailed study before any waiver is granted. Thank you. Or asked for, granted or asked for.
Thank you, Ms. Shapiro. Kelly?
Okay, before I announce the next speaker, we just had someone join us with the 609 area code. Were you interested in speaking?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and what is your name?
Robert Keskis.
Okay, and could you spell your last name?
Keckskes.
And are you with an organization, an agency, or are you a resident?
No, I'm just a concerned citizen.
All right, from what town, sir?
I actually am the ex-section chief for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, and been involved in water supply issues between New York State and New Jersey. But at this particular time, I'm concerned about the Suez Ramapo Valley well field.
Okay, all right. Just to advise you, there's going to be a 3-minute time limit to speak. This is being live streamed. You're going to be speaker number 6. Okay.
Thank you.
And if you wouldn't mind muting your phone until the time to speak. The next speaker is Lorraine Loning from the Village of Monroe.
Hello, Lorraine Loning, Village of Monroe. I'll be brief. I just want to talk about the cost of this expansion. I understand the expansion is due to the additional wastewater flow. Most of the villages around here are pretty built out and stable. So I'm thinking this additional wastewater is generated largely by new development rather than existing residents in the district. And I want to make sure that the cost of this expansion isn't borne proportionally, through the whole district. Rather, it should be borne based on the new developers. They need to pay more to get into the district and pay to establish this expansion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Loning. Kelly?
Okay, our next speaker is Deborah Muniz, and she's with Rosa for Rockland in the town of Ramapo.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Okay, good. I'll give you some feedback. There is a lot of background noise for some reason. So I think maybe there are other callers who have not properly muted. Maybe you should just warn everybody that they need to mute because it's interfering with your presentation. Anyway, my name is Deborah Muniz. I'm one of the founders in 2010 of Rosa for Rockland, which stands for Rockland Organized for Sustainability and a Safe Aquifer. So that was our mission, was to make sure that the seeker for large developments locally did not impact our water supply. And so we've been looking at this issue for years. We are a member of the Rockland Water Coalition, and are primarily concerned and focused with about the issue that you will be seeking DEC waivers. I think Ms. Shapiro mentioned that. And it's from my understanding at this point, and I have not had a chance yet to read all of the documents that are posted, that is for chloride. And I have specific recommendations for the organization of the scoping document. Since you will be needing to do this application, I think it's very important to organize the DEIS in such a way that it supports people's analysis and also your application. So I would recommend that you be very specific and that there be a section in the DEIS dedicated to each and every application and waiver that you would be seeking from the DEC, and that you provide, obviously address all of the issues that would be that they require for the application process with a narrative, because that'll help save you time because you're going to have to do it anyway. But from our perspective, I think the key thing that, and I think I echo Ms. Shapiro's comments here, is the need to actually be very specific about all of the different sources, because I had spoken with someone who had explained that the concern was that you guys have a chloride problem in your aquifer, in your water sources. And like here in Rockland, we get our sources from, 2 different aquifer systems and, Lake DeForest. So I am not personally familiar with all of the sources of water on your end or why they are contaminated with chloride. And this needs to be very carefully articulated so that people understand the problems that you guys are facing. And I can respect the fact that you do not want, to bear the cost of having to treat all of this stuff. But, our key concern is that we are the recipients and that there should be no transfer of having to address, this chloride removal. So you're either going to have to remove it before you put it in the water, or we're going to have to remove it when we pull it out of the water. And I know that, there may be some, thoughts as to efficiencies and things like that, but that's what the DEC regulations are there, is to help balance the needs between differing, areas. So there should be, and if you don't have some of the details right now, I think that analysis needs to be part of the study, which is, like very specifics as to what the issues are for all of the different sources, a key description of like how they're all flowing into the plant, tests of all of those water sources, and, like specific, details as to, what the levels of effort are, because it needs to be related to what you guys need to do or not do in the plant, so that, the people reading it can understand how this ties into your analysis. But obviously the county legislature wants to pay the least amount, to deal with things locally. And our goal down here is that we maintain water quantity, water quality, and things of that nature. So that's my key reason for participating, and I will try to submit, comments in the comment period. And I do think that you guys should post some kind of, if there are Q&As to help people make sure that they're submitting proper comments. I'm assuming right now that all Q&A goes to the primary contact, and if it should be otherwise, please make sure at the end of the meeting that you provide instructions on how to get questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly, next speaker.
Okay, our next speaker is Mayor DWyer from Village of Monroe.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. So my focus, obviously, being the mayor of the Village of Monroe and having attended many of your committees meetings, is as follows. These are the things that really hit home for us here in the village. It was already mentioned, but I'm going to restate it. We have an incredibly offensive odor that comes through the through our airplane park into our village. It's been something that's gone on for many, many years, and the plans and ideas and the implementations to mitigate it have failed. And I want to know in the long term how we're going to deal with not only the additional flows which are heading to Harriman, but how we're going to deal with the current flows, which should be part of that, because we have also in our system a newly installed, probably within the past couple of years, we had a bypass installed right above the current infrastructure, which, to my understanding, served as a waste station to allow the waste to sit while it caught up down the pipeline, if you will. So once that catch-up happens, should there be any improvements to the system that you're planning, I'm just curious how that's going to result in a better quality air and so forth in my village. As the earlier caller mentioned about the hydrogen sulfide, and I have to understand how this is destroying the existing infrastructure. If it is, there must be a science behind it, and I'd like to know more about that science and the fact that two different municipalities are dumping into this pipe, which then comes through my system in the village. I think there should be definite analysis on this and how it should be mitigated once and for all. It's going on probably since the beginning, and that's a tremendous problem for me. An earlier caller also mentioned about salt, and in some of the meetings I've been to my understanding, that's been discussed. Certainly, it's a prohibitively expensive process to deal with salt, and if this infrastructure to improve or upgrade the plant is to increase its volume capacity, I got to believe that since salt is part of that, how that is not currently, at least to my understanding, is not currently part of the overall cost. And is that in fact going to be included in that? I think that's also a very important piece. And then third for me would be the existing infrastructure. I know there's been several pieces to try to understand flows, and I know there's been several initiatives and plans to look at from a maintenance and upgrade to a full-out increase in capacity project. How will that affect the existing infrastructure that comes through the village? The village serves as a gateway, if you will, for a lot of different ports. And again, we're concerned about that as well. We have one coming through the park now, and we have a second one coming through that will involve some metering device, which, to your credit, was taken care of by Mr. Gray, who was very able to work with us on making sure it was not something that would be offensive and or it looked great, and I appreciate that as well. That's really all I have at this point. Obviously, I look forward to seeing the plans as they move forward. We move through the seeker and see what obviously the analysis will be. The major concern, again, for us is cost in the village. We have pretty much built out. We did send some math up to the chair to offer what we have left in the amount of units to be built out and what our impact would be on OCSD 1. So that would be helpful to understand that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Kelly, we have any more speakers?
It looks like our last speaker who signed up so far, we have Robert Keskis, a concerned citizen.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Keskis. I'm a retired section chief with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and have been involved in numerous issues regarding the Ramapo River. While I'm not representing a particular organization, I am personally concerned about the proposed increase in wastewater to be discharged into the Ramapo River from the expanded Harriman wastewater treatment plant in Orange County and its possible effects on the Suez Water Ramapo Valley well field in Rockland County. Suez Water is the primary water supplier in Rockland County. Consisting of 10 wells adjacent to the Ramapo River, this particular well field provides about 25% of the Suez water available supply. The primary source of water is from the well field during dry weather is infiltration from the Ramapo River. The wells are located in very permeable sands, and gravels, thus filtering of the river is minimal. Based on the U.S. Geological Survey gauge at Ramapo, which is just upstream of the well field, the Ramapo River is typically comprised of approximately 50% wastewater during the low flow month of September from current upstream discharges, with the majority of the wastewater originating from the Harriman plant. During dry periods, such as that experienced just 2 weeks ago, the river was made up of approximately 70% wastewater. During most recent summers, the river at the well field is often comprised of 100% wastewater for a number of days. The fraction of wastewater at the well field will increase substantially if the Harriman plant is expanded. The fraction will further increase as other wastewater plants upstream of the well field increase in the future, and as upstream consumptive depleted groundwater diversions increase. The period when the river will consist of primarily wastewater will increase, and the frequency of this phenomena will grow. The end result is likely the need to install advanced treatment of water at the well field in order to meet the state's drinking water standards. This will necessitate substantial rate increases for Suez water customers in Rockland County. An in-depth analysis of the Harriman plant's expansion is consequently pertinent to assess these impacts. This analysis includes the potential impacts of variances being considered for several specific pollutants, including chlorides and total dissolved solids. Ultimately, what is required to address water issues such as these in a comprehensive way is a watershed management plan that considers water quality, economic impacts, and environmental land use issues, as well as flooding and predicted effects of climate change in Rockland and Orange counties. Prioritizing the development of a watershed plan can potentially mitigate the cumulative effects of increased development, including wastewater and stormwater discharges in the watershed. While it may not be feasible for this kind of plan to be completed soon to influence certain decisions about the Harriman treatment plant expansion, it should be a priority for Rockland and Orange County to pursue without delay. Thank you for your consideration of this matter.
Okay, we don't have any other speakers signed up, but for the other callers that did call in, were you interested in speaking now? Okay, Peter, I don't think we have any more speakers. Oh, you're on mute, Peter.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. I just want to thank the public for their comments today. We appreciate you taking the time and reaching out and participating. As a reminder to the public, written public comments will be accepted until the close of business on September 14th, 2020. You can send an email to the Commissioner of Department of Public Works, Eric Denenga, and his email is edenega@orangecounty.gov.com. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank Legislative Counsel Antoinette Reed, Mary Beth Bianconi from the DWyer Engineering Company, our Commissioner of Public Works, Eric Denenga, County Attorney Langdon Chapman, and Senior Assistant County Attorney Joe Mahoney for their hard work in moving this very important project forward. And if there are no more speakers, just thank you all. Thank you everyone on the committee and on this call today for the public scoping session, and now declare this meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.